Yo, what's up, all you burner stoners and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing, Mrs Weedman?
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
Doing fantastic.
I love it. Hey, all you vipers out there in the world, hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show. Mrs Weedman and I are about to get normal. We're smoking GG4, which I've talked about in the show many times, given to us by our friend Matty G. Thanks, Matty. Appreciate you, brother, and hopefully you're getting well soon. Matty's out there just having a little bit of neck problems, so just want to tell you we love you, Matty. Thanks for the awesome strain of GG4. You know it's one of our faves, and we're gonna light that up right now and smoke this big fat doink. And we're smoking it out of a Split Society wrap. You've heard us mention them before. We love Briggs and his team and his family over there, always hooking us up with some great wraps. That palm leaf is one of my faves. So, Mrs. Weedman,
Mr. Weedman.
that looks good.
It does. It tastes good too, I think.
I'm looking forward to trying it.
Maddie, thank you.
We
and I hope you're
appreciate you.
healing up and getting well.
Yes, thanks, Maddie. And looking forward to seeing you at the next brunch of stoners. So
Excellent.
we got a fun fan mail. Buzzsprout, who is our platform that we launch our episode every week on. Thank you. Our episode every week on. It's when you do a podcast, you can just launch it on YouTube and do your YouTube podcast. But we also have a platform we launch it to. There's many different podcast platforms. We launch it onto this one platform called Buzzsprout, which then launches it to all of podcast platforms and YouTube podcasts and stuff like that. So, and now you can write a letter, fan mail, I guess it's called. And I got a really nice letter written to us. Yeah, fan mail. I guess it's weird to say that, you know, but I got a really nice letter and I want to read it because it made me a little teary eyed. It was just nice to hear. So, and I sent it to Mrs. Weedman and Shawty, our producer, to read it. But it says, okay. Episode 226 was pretty profound for me. I was listening to it on my way to meet my little brother to pick out a casket for our mother who died suddenly as well. She had sent me an awesome text on my birthday, October 12th. Happy birthday. I did respond, but put off calling her. Our relationship was not good. Tuesday, my little brother called me. He had just found her in her house, passed away. So the episode 226 really hit for me. Thank you both. On a much lighter note, there is a chef I'm working with, catering with. We both smoke. There's usually a cloud floating in the kitchen. Big laugh, they put on the fan mail. We also occasionally teach cooking classes. I bought up one of your episodes for her while we were cooking. She loves it. I bought up Brunch of Stoners. She's looking into it. She's thinking of doing a version of at her house since we are not in a legal state. I've been meaning to reach out to you all to see if you had a promotional package for us and display when we do it to pull it off. Finally getting where we don't have 100-day heat in San Antonio, Texas. 100 degrees, my goodness. So time's getting close. Thank you again for episode 226, Shane, San Antonio, Texas.
Sweet. Thank you, Shane.
Yes, thank you, Shane, for the kind words.
And sorry for your loss.
Yes, very sorry for your loss. Hopefully you and your little brother are doing okay in this time, and we appreciate all the kind words we get from people around the world. Thank you so much, Shane. I'm going to take a little hit of this real quick while Mrs. Weedman tells you about her trip to where? Tennessee. Tennessee. Tell us about it, Mrs. Weedman.
The vibe wasn't quite that. The vibe was more, y'all. I was in Tennessee. I was in Nashville, Tennessee for the weekend celebrating my niece's 21st birthday with her friend and another niece, her sister, and my sister. So there were 5 of us, and we did some exploring. We had a lot of fun. We really jammed the weekend in. And in the midst of it all, I was able to kind of navigate through and figure out the scene down there.
What is the cannabis scene like down there?
My niece and both of my nieces and my niece's friend are all consumers, big time. They love their weed. And then my sister really enjoys weed, but it doesn't sit well with her. She can have edibles. Low dose edibles are okay, but every time she smokes, she gets completely nauseous, and she doesn't go overboard. So she did smoke with us one evening and then ended up in bed for 3 hours. But anyway, long story short is that the scene is pretty interesting. I brought a lot of weed with.
Mr. Weedman hooked it up.
I had probably I don't know, quarter ounce with me. I had probably 10 pre-rolls. I had a backwoods from Ladybuds. We actually smoked that on my niece's 21st birthday, and it was freaking amazing. I had, and that backwoods had keef, hash, and flower in a tobacco leaf. And it smoked so smooth. It was so good. We just had so much. My nieces had some weed from Earl.
Thanks, Earl.
we had an abundance, trust me. And then we had edibles flying at the house for sleeping, and there was a lot. And so I didn't tell anybody how much I had brought because we were driving and we were going through 2 illegal states. We were actually going through 2 and staying in 1. We were going through Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Not great, right? So everything was in odor-proof bags and tucked away nicely in my suitcase. And I didn't tell anybody how much I had in case we got pulled over and searched. They wouldn't be like, oh, fuck, we're done, and I could just take the blame. So we had a lot. And again, like we were kind of thinking we needed to be real sneaky. Obviously, we were staying in a hotel. You can't smoke there. So we just did like walks around the block and we'd have a joint. And at the bars, the first night out on Broadway, a bus went down the street, a smoke sesh bus. And it had the word cannabis on it, had the word THC on it, but it's all hemp derived. But somehow they were still able to advertise the word with the word cannabis. And then they were along Broadway in kind of empty lots between bars that are like kind of parking lots, but you can't really park in there. They're just open lots. There were little like Airstream, like 2-person Airstreams that were converted into little cannabis counters, hemp-derived cannabis, little stores. So right on Broadway, it was advertised, and they were advertising it as THC. They had cannabis leaves everywhere. They had there was a lot of blatant exposure, and it was not on the down low anywhere. Never really smelled it anywhere. Never saw anybody else smoking when we were smoking. We smoked pretty publicly. We just kind of stepped off to the side from entrances or went down to a corner, wherever we could be where it wouldn't be super, super obvious. And then just kind of assumed, like, if a cop comes up, just say we bought it at that little stand on Broadway. What else? We were in a jewelry store, and as we were walking out, these girls were walking in promoting a canned THC beverage and dropping it off to local businesses just to get their name out and share with the general public. Then there was a little, you saw my stories on Instagram. There was a little stationary old like a box truck that's parked on a corner. It has flat tires. It's not moving. And it is a permanent stand. And it just has reference to cannabis on it. That didn't say cannabis, but there was a little sign outside with 2 hands and a joint. And it said 2 for $20. And it had cannabis leaves on the decor of the bus. And then they do free smoke sessions at 2 and 10 every day. And across the street from that was a consumption cafe. I mean, I was like, this isn't even happening in Chicago.
Right.
And we're legal. It was kind of mind-blowing. Again, like nobody talked about it. But it was really there. Like everywhere there. It was really pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about the character you met in the van. In the little hippie van.
Yeah, Shaky. He was pretty cool. So in the back of that little van was the guy working. And he was great. So he had his van. He travels around. And he had THCA flower. And he repurposes clothing and recreates clothing into new designs. He was just a cool, dynamic guy. And he's like, what can I do for you in Chicago? We would love to come up. So we'll have to connect with Shaky and see what we can do in the future. But it was just overall it was just a pretty cool experience to feel like it really wasn't that big of a deal there.
Right.
They're finding workarounds. They're in the gray area.
Did you see the little carts driving around like we talked about on a couple episodes a long time ago about Tennessee?
I did. I did see one. It was late at night. Like you're saying it was the only reason I'm remembering it. But I did see like a little push cart and somebody had that and they were selling stuff. And then the little stationary trailers, like little campers. So you could find it if you wanted it.
Tennessee.
Yeah. And
Tennessee.
And that cannabis consumption cafe was it. It was not.
What was it called? Buds and Beer or something?
Buds and Beer. It was and it was looked like your neighborhood cute bar. It was on like a
divey?
No, it looked like a nice neighborhood. Like you would go there for lunch or a light dinner and have some drinks or have some cannabis. And they have a huge back patio. And then they had a food truck, even an infused food truck. And that even said, I forgot about that. Yeah, outside of their beer garden, they had a camper, a food truck.
Right.
It has to be pulled by a vehicle. It wasn't drivable. But they must take that to events, and that's a cannabis, THC, everything on it, and it was all infused foods.
That's great.
It was pretty.
So did you feel afraid at all to get in trouble? And I know you. When you know something's not legal, you don't take risk when it comes.
Well, I don't want to be confronted. Right. I didn't want to be confronted. I didn't want to see my nieces get in trouble.
Right.
And they have the power to arrest you there.
Right.
And you will do time if they feel like pressing charges. So that hangs over your head because there is a really serious consequence if you do get caught.
Right.
But I felt comfortable because of all of the public ways of getting cannabis there. I would just play it off. And, they could turn around and say, let me see the packaging. Maybe there's some sort of written rule on how these things have to be wrapped. And, they might have a way of identifying the product from that area and knowing what's being sold. But it was kind of like, fuck it. If they're doing all this shit all over the public streets and driving buses around and
they do public smoking at 2 and 10 at the one trailer, right? You were saying?
Yeah, I got less and less concerned with it while I was there.
That's good. Yeah. I know you.
So but then driving back home again, it was like, all right, stash it. Put it all the way down.
You had it in the 8 decades jars, no smell jars.
I had 50 empty doob tubes in my purse. There wasn't much left.
So that's great. I'm glad you had a good trip. I'm glad you drove through a couple of states that cannabis isn't legal in. But
we survived.
You survived it.
You got a story to tell.
A story to tell.
My niece has a story to tell.
It's all about the story.
It was fun.
Oh, hey, everybody. Don't forget to check out 8decades.com, Mrs. Weedman's baby. Go to 8decades.com for all your cannabis accessory needs. Clothing, the best, baddest, dopest smoke tray set you will find on the planet. 16-gauge steel tray, curved edges, ashtray, 3-piece ashtray, and then you got your tool set that Mrs. Weedman created for Mr. Weedman to scoop that weed in your bowls, your bongs, anything you got. Check out our tray set, our clothing line. We got grinders, we got bowls. Check out 8decades.com for all your cannabis needs and Mrs. Weedman's baby. Check out 8decades.com.
We also have Weedman 420 swag.
Oh, yeah.
Check that out, too. Some great T-shirts, hoodies. We're getting into fall weather.
I'm actually wearing one of them right now.
Yeah. We're getting into fall weather. 8 Decades also has merino wool and hemp blend scarves and beanie hats.
Nice. And your long sleeve 8 Decades sweatshirts too. Oh,
we got all sorts of good stuff. And I want to have more products. But guess what? The number one rule of a brand is buying more products doesn't sell more products. Mm-hmm. So we got to sell more stuff so we can bring in more new
cool
things.
Stuff. Yes.
So
support the brand.
Shop.
Yes.
Holidays are coming up.
Yep. You support us. We'll be able to keep on doing this show. Yep. Support our brand. We'll help you out as much as we can.
That's
Thank
right.
you so much, everybody. We appreciate it. Now, on to thank you, Matty, for getting me high. I appreciate it. At GG4 is taking. I've had some neck pain in the last couple of days, and it's actually making the pain go bye-bye.
Yay.
Thank you, Matty. But Mr. Weedman had a very disappointing weekend.
Yeah, he did.
Not because Mrs. Weedman was out of town all weekend. That was disappointing too.
It's okay. You could say you
remember that,
it.
Gentlemen. You earn points sometimes when you say very nice things.
I missed you.
I didn't say I missed you.
Well, kind of.
In some ways, I just was lonely. But Yuki made up for it because she would snuggle in bed with me all night. So at least I wasn't totally alone. But besides Mrs. Weedman being out of town and me being lonely, Mr. Weedman lost, once again, his social media accounts. Now, this is the second time. The first time I was hacked. And that Weedman 420 Chronicles, the original one, was started in 2018 by my son Paulie and myself and his two friends and Shardy, our producer. And that account had a lot of content on there that was amazing. We put a lot of effort into that account from 2018 to 2023, right? Or 2022. And we had a lot of good stuff on there that we had to keep on taking off because Instagram was shadow banning me and was going to ban my account. We actually lost it for one day and they gave it back to me. But I had a lot of followers on there and a lot of friends on there and a lot of good DMs on there over the years, and had a lot of close relationships of people I met through cannabis. And when I got hacked and I lost that account, that was devastating to me. And I would just say that would probably be, if it ever happens again, I'm not going to lose sleep over it, right? I didn't call you crying and pissed off. I was just like, so when I lost that first account, though, I was devastated. That one took the cake because there were so many cool people I met over the years and just messages. And the original Viper channel had fucking almost 100 people on it and stuff. And yeah, when that account, that I was pretty upset. I felt like I fucking was like I lost my best friend, you know, because I lost so many friends on there.
Yeah,
and I never got really that account. Can never get it back. So we started a new account. It was called Weedman 420 Chronicles 2.0. And I started that in the winter after I got hacked a couple weeks later. And this time I grew it slowly. I didn't really try to promote, like, to try to get more followers. I just wanted this one to be more organically grown. And I just wanted to meet people or meet people through people and get to know everybody instead of having a bazillion followers who I never even knew their name or knew where they were from. So this one I kind of grew slowly and differently for 2 years, and I hit over 1,000 followers. But the messages and the Viper channel on that one was something special because it was like close relationships because of the podcast, because of all the events we've done, people I got to smoke joints with and hear fun stories. And it was. What I noticed something was weird, besides being shadow banned and having to delete all my content because it had weed in it, not smoking, but just something that said the word weed in it. And I noticed I was out and we were trying to follow each other and this person kept on clicking follow and it would click and then it would go right back to blue follow. And he's like, "Do you see this?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, I said, "Don't worry about it, man. I got you. You know, hopefully in a couple days or so." I said, "I've been shadow banned so many times. Who knows? Maybe they're just messing with my account." I get home and Friday comes out. I post my normal, because I post every day, an article and then my Sunday smoke sesh, which I don't even smoke. It's just now called Sunday sesh. My positive message for the end of the week and then going into the next week. And on Friday, I don't remember what time it was. It was Friday or Saturday. I think it was Friday. And all of a sudden I go and I can't get on my account. But here's the clicker. I just thought I lost my Weedman 420 Chronicles 2.0. I still have the Grow Hour, right? And then I had my personal one. And then I also have my Facebook that I've had since like 2007, right? They took them all down. Every single one of them.
Everything that was associated with your name.
Everything. My Facebook account's gone. My personal Instagram that I've had since Instagram came out. Yeah. My personal one that had a lot of good, fun pictures on there.
I think that I don't understand.
I had like 1,300 posts on that personal one.
I don't understand legally how they have the right to that. I feel like your social media profile is, I mean, you can will your Facebook fucking account to somebody. There's a legacy. I don't know if anybody knows this, but you can go into your settings and determine who is the beneficiary of your Facebook account. Not joking, by name. You name this person, and then you get a sheet of paper. We both did it. So that if something happened to one of us, the other one can get in there, because your life, like, there's a lot of historically of your life, you know, a lot of documented events in your life are there. A lot of people use social media.
You were using Facebook in 2006.
Yeah.
And how much content? Probably before. How much content did you have on that? If you lost that account,
that's what I'm trying to say. Like, a lot of people use their social media to document their life. They're not really looking for followers or necessarily for likes and clicks and things. They want to be able to have a place to reflect on big events in their life or small events too. And that's how I view photos. I have good memories, but the photos just bring the moment back so vividly. And I really like to capture photos. And I don't understand how these websites, I'm sure it's in the fine print.
It is.
I just don't understand. If you can will your account to somebody, they understand there's value in it. They understand it's important.
Right.
That this should go with you.
Right.
Just like your other belongings.
Yeah.
But then they can just wipe it away and just take it away.
I mean,
that's your personal property,
right.
if you ask me. It's a lot of time and energy invested. It's a lot of communication and data about someone's life. If they really looked at your profile, they can learn a lot about you.
Right.
I think it's fucking weird and bullshit, quite frankly.
And lately over the last like month or so, a lot of people have lost their accounts. But if you were to go to the search bar and type in weed, nothing comes up.
Another hypocrisy, because that's complete bullshit. Because big names in cannabis can say the word cannabis, write the word cannabis,
write the word weed,
smoke cannabis, have flower, hold flower, have a joint, smoke a joint, blow a bong. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
Do you know why?
And they can pay to advertise those same things because they pay.
Because they pay.
But there are also influencer people, level people, small to very, million follower type.
More.
But I mean, there's even people in the 5 and 10,000s,
right?
Influencer level, like micro influencers who are still allowed to do it.
Right.
There's just general people who are still allowed to do it. But at some point, sometimes you get caught up on, and then they are following you and they're watching.
You get
somebody
targeted.
is watching. Yeah.
You get targeted.
And it's just bullshit because it just shouldn't be that way.
I just our both of our pages, the 8 decades 2, has been, you had to go through a whole cleanup.
I was shadow banned. I was getting like maybe 30 to 50 people seeing my material
Sometimes
for
less.
months and months.
Right.
Because they just, one thing after another, they'd flag it. They'd say that this is against community violations and I'd have to appeal it. And then at times it's just like, I know if I appeal it, I'm going to lose. So
right.
you're deleting,
delete them.
deleting. I have like nothing left on my page.
Right.
And there's, I'm always at risk of them catching going back, seeing something.
Nobody even sees your stuff, like non-followers.
I get no reach.
Yeah.
And they do not want me to break a certain level with my followers. They just keep, anytime I start to get some traction, I lose people, which I think is another
scam
bullshit. Yeah. It's dumb. It's dumb. But unfortunately, the world of weed wants to play on this playground. That's where everybody is. Mm-hmm. Everybody across the world is using Instagram to share the word about cannabis.
You can't even go on TikTok. You post now, but here's the thing.
But
I've lost an account on TikTok and started another one. Now I'm seeing people posting stuff on TikTok about weed.
Right.
And it's like I've lost an account, and every time I try to post something about just even the podcast stuff, I get flagged.
Yeah.
You're going to lose your account.
So it's so ridiculous. So we all know that X is a usable platform. Nobody wants to go over there. But hey, we got to do something collectively.
I tried to go on there, and
I don't know how you should. I mean, think
it's
about,
very. Even when it was even if it was Twitter,
right?
I never really went on it. It wasn't. It just. I didn't like the layout. I don't like how it works.
But do you remember the resistance to getting on Facebook?
Yeah.
And then from Facebook, when Instagram became popular, and at first nobody really, it's just a picture. Nobody says anything. And then little by little, that the kind of the unwritten rule of Instagram in the beginning is you put a picture up and you put a couple words and you hashtag a bunch of words, but you don't really communicate. You're not looking for comments. You're not looking for, all that stuff. And now it's turned into, I think, the biggest advertising tool.
Everybody's
in
advertising
the United States. Everybody is advertising. It's all just a big fucking commercial.
Yeah.
But it's like if you're in a business and you need to sell things, everybody needs it.
Right.
You need it. That's where your people are. But remember the kind of resistance of going from Facebook to Instagram was weird. It was weird.
Twitter has so many.
But it's evolved.
They've been around.
I know
they've been around for a long time too. It's just
different. It's a different space.
You can post a lot of stuff on there.
But it's cannabis friendly.
Yes, very cannabis friendly. It's very everything friendly, I think, now. And like I said, I used it for a minute, but it's just also that thing too is it's very hard to use, like, to do 6 different social media things. It's
yes.
like, so it's like I stuck with.
You can only manage so much.
I stuck where my biggest followings were at, which was Instagram, and then I would go on, I'd go on TikTok a little bit here and there just because I like learning. It's a great learning tool for stuff. So, but just to do that to somebody's life and the work they put in their content to just be wiped out is just, it's a pain in the fucking ass.
Yeah.
Because here's the point. Do I start over? I haven't even decided. I appealed it, and I actually wrote them an email, and who knows if they'll even read the email, but I wrote them an email too. And I don't know whether I want to start another one or not. I'm in that dilemma right now, but I do miss all the people I've met, the communication and the talks and the fun laughs that some people, like some of the stories that the friends that you have on their posts make you laugh your ass off, you know? And there's good content that people put out there and it makes you smile. You know, if you go that direction, and hopefully my content made people happy, you know, and made people learn something. You know, when I used to do that full every day was something different, and then I started getting banned on that. You know, I had my Token Tuesday. What are you token? I had Show Your Grow Fridays. I had to stop doing all that because they were banning everything. And that my whole, like, what do I do now? So I just started just posting information, education about cannabis and articles and posting some funny memes and some words of positivity every day. And then my Sunday smoke sesh, which, you know, I always chose a different song that was helping me reflect on something or hopefully meaning to somebody that needed to hear those words that day to get them through that day, or just something to make them smile or sing the song that they knew. So it was a lot of thought. You know, when I'm sitting here having a cup of coffee Sunday morning at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. thinking, oh, I got to do my Sunday sesh. What song is going to be meaningful for that? You know, and it just... I don't know if I want to start another one. I'm kind of like in between right now. I'm kind of more burnt out, I guess, from them beating me up. Or do I just say fuck the man and fuck Zuck and just go ahead and start another one, but just do it totally different, you know?
Yeah, follow their rules, right? Their garbage rules.
Right. But I wonder when cannabis goes legal federally, what they're going to do. Now we're going to be accepted into your open arms. You know, oh, cannabis is now federally legal. Oh, I love you all. Fuck Zuck.
Yeah, but the bigger problem is that they're not fair and balanced with how they are screening. If they can
is any businesses?
But I mean, if they're opening the door, if it's following community guidelines because they pay, it's still federally illegal.
Right.
So they're accepting money from a company selling a product that's federally illegal.
Right.
And they'll let those people advertise, but they won't let the person who's not willing to pay advertise. The same product.
Yep.
Same product.
I know. It's terrible, isn't it? But we're all a bunch of suckers, right? The fool being fooled by the fools, right?
Sheep.
It's just, I don't know. All right, let's get off Instagram. I'm done. If I decide to do another one, everybody, I'll let you know in an episode or two. And, you know, I just... you know, Mrs Weedman last night in bed, she's like, oh, do you want to look at Instagram with me? I know you're probably draining. I'm like, actually, you know, there's only a few things I missed, but I'm actually kind of glad. I take a little break, mental, from that shit, you know, and TikTok is fine, but it gets bored. So I just read more. I went back to reading a lot more, reading more articles at nights in the bed instead of looking at fucking social media. I'm just learning more about weed. Right. You know, so I spend my 30 minutes before bed just reading. Back to like reading.
Oh, I think life would be a lot more constructive without social media. It's what is it, like an oxymoron in life? It's like you don't want it, but you need it.
Right. There it is. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again without
expecting a different result.
So, I don't know. I'll figure it out. Stay tuned, everybody. You ready to get the show started?
Let's do it.
Matty, man, you got me baked.
Yeah, I'm pretty baked.
Thanks, brother. GG4. Let's get the show started. Science says CBD oil may help heal wounds. Yeah. Now, it keeps mosquitoes away. A larvae kills the larvae that cause yellow fever. We read about that, and it's all over. It was over the internet for a couple of weeks, too. People were posting about it. We talk a lot about CBD oil and the health benefits it has. We talked about it with sunburn too, didn't we? With skin when you have sunburn too. So this is good stuff. So may it help heal wounds. It happens to everyone. A fall, a surgery, something which breaks the skin and becomes an open wound. It can hurt, itch, or just look really bad. Not healing properly also causes problems. Scar tissue doesn't allow hair to grow, tends to get sunburn, and can be sensitive to the touch. Researchers managed to find a path to help the wounds, but more needs to be done. Within all things developed to help, science says CBD oil may help heal wounds. And this can be good news to the 100+ million who get a nasty wound each year. Some new research shows cannabinoids appear to improve skin, wound healing through the variety of mechanisms. This is supported through a variety of in vitro and animal studies. Animal studies suggest applications of cannabinoids may improve the healing of post-surgical and chronic wounds. It is a natural CBD is seen a solution to the wounds. It has multiple ways to help the body. It is a potent anti-inflammatory properties which can help reduce inflammation associated with wounds. By decreasing inflammatory marks, the cytokine production. CBD may help control swelling and promote faster healing, also increase blood flow to the injured area, bring more oxygen and nutrients to promote healing. It can also help with pain, since the analgesic effects can help reduce pain associated with wounds. Pain relief may allow for better wound care and less discomfort during the healing process. Data shows CBD exhibits antibacterial and antiseptic effects, which can help keep wounds clean and prevent infection. This is crucial for proper wound healing, especially for open wounds and preventing scarring. The antioxidant properties of CBD can help reduce oxidative stress in wounds, which may contribute to faster healing. The study showed 72% of CBD treated patients experienced complete wound healing compared to 30% in the controlled group. Researchers managed to find a path to help with the wounds, but more needs to be done. I wonder if CBD oil helps with broken toes, because you seem to have a problem with all your broken toes. You break one a month. Every time you see Mrs Weedman limping around in a video, she busted her toe open.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Busted toes. Looking all crooked like my fucking
No, I
pinky
have one
finger.
toe that I jammed so it doesn't bend. And my second toe is slightly longer than my big toe, so that's the one that's jammed. So it's like that.
Put some CBD
And it's
oil
stuck
on it.
straight. So I hit it all the time on things and fall to the floor and hold my toe and practically cry and feel nauseous.
At least a couple, once or twice a month.
Nothing's ever wrong with it. Except for it doesn't bend.
Oh, shit. Solving the cannabis puzzle.
Oh, I need some glasses.
Unlock, Mrs. Weedman,
Yeah.
the perfect pot experience.
Cannabis has the power to provide profound benefits. Yet for many consumers, the experience remains a puzzle. Despite its growing acceptance, cannabis use can often feel like a guessing game, with unpredictable outcomes and inconsistent results. This inconsistency can lead to frustration, causing some to question the value of cannabis in their lives. Solving the cannabis puzzle requires a purposeful approach. It's about understanding why you're consuming and aligning your product choices, doses, and habits with your personal goals. Unfortunately, the lingering stigma surrounding cannabis has clouded this understanding for years. Many still view cannabis use as a passive, aimless activity. This is a relic of outdated stereotypes. However, purposeful cannabis consumption allows users to optimize their experiences and fully harness the plant's potential. I discovered this firsthand. My journey with cannabis didn't begin until later in life. At first, it was a mix of trial and error. While cannabis intrigued me, I often found the results unpredictable and frustrating. It wasn't until I embraced a more intentional approach by focusing on what I wanted to achieve with each use and fine-tuning variables like dosage and product choice that cannabis became a transformative tool for improving my life. I learned how to make cannabis work for me, and this purposeful approach is now central to how I view and advocate for its use. That said, if you've found a different approach that works for you and enhances your life, I'm not suggesting this is the only one. There are many paths to a better experience. Purposeful cannabis consumption goes beyond using cannabis with intention. It's a structured approach to achieving specific outcomes. Unlike habitual use, which is often routine and automatic, or intentional use, which involves some degree of mindfulness, purposeful consumption is goal-driven. It's about experimenting, reflecting, and optimizing your cannabis use to meet your objectives. Purposeful consumption encourages you to track what works and adjust until you achieve the best possible experience. At the core of purposeful consumption are goals. Over time, through data collected from hundreds of thousands of cannabis experiences, jointly identified 12 distinct goals that people seek when they consume cannabis: to relax and refresh, relieve stress, improve sleep, energize and uplift, ease pain, enjoy social experiences, focus, create, stimulate appetite, enhance intimacy, and recover from exercise. On average, people have 2.4 goals, and identifying your goals is the first step in turning cannabis into a tool that can positively impact your life. With clear goals in mind, consumers can make better product choices and fine-tune their consumption methods for more reliable results. However, purposeful consumption goes deeper than simply setting a goal and selecting a product. It's about crafting the conditions that lead to what I call being pie high, a perfect 10 out of 10 cannabis experience. The concept comes from a pie chart developed using data from over 400,000 unique cannabis experiences. The chart shows that your cannabis experience is made up of many factors: the product itself, the dose, the setting, and even lifestyle factors like hydration, sleep, and exercise. Just as every slice of a pie adds up to a whole, these elements must be carefully balanced to achieve that elusive pie high, where everything comes together for the perfect experience. At the heart of solving the cannabis puzzle is data. With so many variables influencing each experience, from product choice and dosage to setting and timing, it's nearly impossible to predict outcomes without a systematic approach. This is why data-driven solutions are becoming essential for cannabis consumers. Tracking consumption, reflecting on outcomes, and analyzing patterns allows individuals to optimize their experiences and move beyond trial and error. There are several platforms and tools that help consumers log their experiences, including product type, dosage, specific goals. Over time, users can gather valuable insight into what works best for them. By reviewing their data, consumers can identify which combinations of factors consistently lead to successful outcomes. For example, if better sleep is the goal, such tools might reveal that a specific product and dose at a particular time of day are most effective. One key piece of solving the cannabis puzzle is product selection. Data-driven algorithms can analyze a user's consumption goals and product characteristics, such as strain, cannabinoid content, and terpene profile, to recommend products that are most likely to meet their needs. The best solutions are unbiased, relying solely on real-world performance data rather than paid placements, which makes these recommendations trustworthy and goal-specific. However, finding the right product is just one part of the equation. Optimizing the cannabis experience also requires considering dosage, timing, and environmental factors like setting and hydration. By experimenting and fine-tuning these elements, consumers can maximize their results and avoid inconsistent experiences that often frustrate cannabis use. In cannabis retail settings, the conversation tends to circle around two familiar points: price and potency. Consumers often choose the lowest price and the highest THC percentage, believing that more THC means a better experience. But this approach overlooks the complexity of cannabis and what truly drives a satisfying and effective experience. While price and potency are easy to measure, they don't tell the full story. In fact, focusing solely on these factors can often lead consumers to products that don't align with their personal goals, leaving them frustrated with inconsistent results. The reality is that cannabis consumption is highly personal, and what works for one person may not work for the other. Effective use is about finding the right product that matches not just your budget, but your specific needs and goals. Whether you're looking to relax, improve sleep, or spark creativity, there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Personalization, driven by data and guided by your consumption goals, helps you move beyond generic recommendations and find products that truly work for you. For too long, casual or or habitual use has dominated the narrative, with many consumers unsure of how to get the best out of their cannabis experiences and many consumers choosing not to participate. But as more people learn that cannabis is not just about getting high, but about improving their well-being, it's clear that the future of cannabis consumption lies in a more informed and purposeful approach. This shift requires a cultural change. Cannabis can't be about the indiscriminate use or chasing the highest THC percentage. It must evolve to include an understanding of why we consume and align our choices with those goals. Instead of viewing cannabis purely as a recreational or medical drug, we must treat it as a wellness tool, part of a broader strategy to improve quality of life. To fully realize this future, retailers and bud tenders play a key role in empowering consumers. It's no longer enough to simply sell products. Bud tenders must be educators, guiding consumers to the right product based on their unique goals and needs. By fostering conversations about purposeful consumption, bud tenders can help consumers make better decisions and enjoy more consistent, satisfying experiences. If the industry embraces purposeful consumption, we'll not only improve individual cannabis experiences, but also elevate the conversation around cannabis, leading to a more responsible and consumer-centric marketplace. The cannabis puzzle is complex, but the solution lies in data, experimentation, and purpose. By understanding why we consume, using data to guide our choices, and fine-tuning the variables that impact our experiences, we can transform cannabis from a guessing game into a reliable tool for well-being. Consumers now have tools to take control of their cannabis journeys. By embracing purposeful consumption, you can achieve better, more consistent results and enjoy a more fulfilling relationship with cannabis. So ask yourself, what are your goals? What products and practices work best for you? With the right mindset and tools, you have the power to solve the cannabis puzzle and make it work for you.
That was a great article. Long. Yeah. Take a drink.
You get a little scratchy.
You get a little raspy, but it's kind of sexy when you do the raspy voice, like a singer, you know?
I don't know about that.
Marijuana does not jeopardize mental health, studies show, contrary to opponents' alarmist claims. Opponents of marijuana legalization often allege that jurisdictions that have legalized adult use marijuana sales experience rises in incidence of cannabis-induced psychosis and other adverse mental health consequences, but nearly a decade worth of scientific data from Canada and the United States refutes this contention. For instance, a study published last year in an imprint of the Journal of American Medical Association evaluated the relationship between U.S. legalization laws and psychosis rates in more than 63 million privately insured individuals. Research described it as the largest study to quantify the association of medical recreational cannabis policies with rates of psychosis-related health care claims across the United States. Investigators concluded state medical and recreational cannabis policies were not associated with the statistically significant increases in rates of psychosis-related health outcomes. They're not alone in this determination. A just published consensus study compiled by the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine concluded there is insufficient evidence of an association between cannabis policy and changes in mental and behavioral health. A new data from Canada published this month in the Journal of Social Psychiatry and Psychiatric Epidemiology. I almost said Psycharity again. I'm just kidding. A friend of mine texted me, said, dude, Psycharity, come on now. Oh, shit. Cannabis-related emergency departments visits declined among schizophrenia patients following Canada's adoption of adult-use marijuana legalization. Our findings suggest that regulatory measures accompanying legalization could enhance the quality of safety of cannabis products, potentially leading to fewer adverse health outcomes in vulnerable patient populations, the study authors wrote. Furthermore, our study indicates that legalization of cannabis regulation in certain contexts may help reduce acute care utilizations in vulnerable patients groups. Their findings are particularly relevant because it was well established that those suffering from schizophrenia, psychosis, and similar conditions tend to consume cannabis, tobacco, and other controlled substances at rates higher than those in the general population. Data also suggests that in some cases, cannabis use may exacerbate.
It's okay.
I know. Symptoms of psychosis
We know what
and
you
even
mean.
trigger a psychotic episode in those predisposed to it. Therefore, regulatory strategies that better educate, target, and protect the vulnerable population is critically important. On the other hand, sensitization claims that cannabis use poses significant mental health risks to those not predisposed to such conditions does little to promote either public health or responsible cannabis consumption. In fact, instances of cannabis-induced psychosis in the general population are rare. When do they occur? They primarily manifest in those with pre-existing mental conditions such as bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. Yet, even in these instances, it often remains unclear to the degree in which cannabis use alone is responsible for these outcomes. That's because marijuana use is one of the multiple behaviors commonly associated with psychosis, including consuming alcohol, smoking cigarettes, watching extended hours of television daily, and the biggest one, poor diet. Consequently, little credence should be given to opponents' allegations that cannabis legalization promotes either unique or significant risk to mental health. Rather, it should be acknowledged that those populations most vulnerable to cannabis-related adverse health events stand to benefit from a regulatory environment that promotes consumer education, product quality control, and responsible use. Great article. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
We smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah.
How much cottonmouth do you think we've had in all the weed we've smoked? Do you get a lot of cottonmouth?
Yeah.
Certain strains especially.
Yeah, certain strains.
Yeah.
Definitely certain strains. Hang on. That's Mr. Weedman segueing me into my
Right.
article.
That's why I gave you a chance to smoke your weed.
But I gotta take a puff here. My timing was off. I thought you still had more to go with your article.
No. But there is...
Here you go.
There is such thing as cottonmouth with weed. It is probably the worst feeling you get. And the only... I don't need the ashtray. The only thing you get bad that I get...
Yeah.
Is cottonmouth. I don't get dry eye. I don't get red eye.
Yeah.
I don't get... sometimes my nose dries up, but that used to happen.
Sometimes we get stuffy.
That's what happens when I smoke cigs too. When I used
Yeah.
to smoke cigs too. So that's more of the smoke blowing out of your nose that does that to me.
Right.
But cottonmouth is a real fucking thing. And
It's a
I
thing.
drink. I got my water bottle down here. I drink probably 2.5 or 3 of these a day, plus my one, seltzer. So hoppy refresher, and I drink a lot of water. I don't drink pop. Unless you grab a Diet Coke and I take a sip of it, but I don't drink pop. I drink beer only on the weekends, and that never gives me cottonmouth unless it's a fucking heavy dose IPA.
Mr. Weedman is slightly disciplined. Slightly.
Except on the weekends. I fuck off on the weekends. 80-20 rule, moderation rule that you've always taught me.
He's learned.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
You've learned moderation.
I've learned from Yoda, Master, Miyagi. Wata!
All right, let's get to this.
Tell us about the common weed myth. Does it hold water? No water? Do you got to drink a lot of water?
Well, let's go.
Tell us about it.
Cottonmouth is a phenomenon that happens after smoking certain cannabis strains. Shortly after the exhale, the mouth becomes a desert. Those experiencing this may have a dry, sticky mouth that may feel they no longer produce saliva. These experiences are why many wonder, can cannabis dehydrate you? Cannabis users may notice that their water intake goes up and their mouths get dry after they smoke. With that happening regularly, it's easy to assume getting high leads to dehydration. Despite these correlations, there is no evidence that that is true. However, in certain circumstances, smoking weed can be a factor in fluid loss. Cannabis might not directly cause dehydration in a classic sense. Dry mouth is definitely real. Yet dry mouth does not always equate to dehydration. Before jumping in on cannabis-related instances where dehydration occurs, let's talk about that dry mouth feeling. A dry mouth void of saliva is one of the common side effects of certain weed varieties. This does not happen because of dehydration. It is a function of the endocannabinoid system responding to an onslaught of cannabinoids. When cannabis users inhale or eat weed, compounds bind to and activate cannabinoid receptors in the salivary glands and all over the body. These receptors work together so that the system can reach equilibrium. For the salivary ones, I'm sorry, I just had to, I feel so scratchy. For the salivary ones, that means controlling spit production. After smoking weed, THC will bond to these submandibular receptors, and they will stop creating spit until the cannabinoids wear off. A dry mouth can be one of the signs of dehydration, along with thirst, dark urine, headache, fatigue, and more. However, the reason some feel this differs from why someone feels this differs from why a person experiences weed-related dry mouth. When someone has dry mouth as a symptom of dehydration, it is a mechanism that keeps the body from losing more fluids. Salivary glands stop producing because there is no more water left to do the job. Meanwhile, a perfectly hydrated person might puff on a joint and experience a dry mouth. The two are not the same. Neither experience is particularly fun, but they are different bodily mechanisms and should not be confused. Consuming cannabis alone should not be dehydrating, but some circumstances could lead a person there. Chronic daily cannabis use sometimes leads to cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. This syndrome is marked by cyclical nausea, vomiting, and abdominal cramping. Those diagnosed with CHS often do not find relief until they quit all weed use. People who throw up a lot may end up dehydrated, and in CHS cases, it could then be said that weed is causing it. Another instance where someone might find themselves lacking fluids from cannabis is during a weed hangover. It is believed that drinking water might help offset the haziness and dry mouth that could occur the day after a supremely high night. While water is a satisfactory response to the experience, this dry mouth still qualifies as a cannabinoid issue and not classic dehydration. Essentially, smoking weed, vaping, or eating edibles alone is not dehydrating. Cottonmouth is real, but a cannabis-related dry mouth is not a sign of dehydration. It is an indicator that salivary endocannabinoid receptors are full. Those who experience classic dehydration after consuming cannabinoids probably entered the sesh without having enough fluids in their system. A dry mouth is not fun, whether from dehydration or not. Those who have friends over to smoke weed should always consider supplying water to drink, even if the weed myth is officially debunked.
I do say this drink I drink a lot, Hoppy Refresher. Tell you what, that takes the cotton mouth right away. Oh my God, yeah.
Well, we've smoked strains, and then you wake up, I'm sure everyone listening has had a moment like this. You wake up in the middle of the night and your mouth is like, there is not even a droplet of water.
Yes.
It's like someone took a hairdryer and dried your mouth out.
Oh yeah,
and you're like,
it's happened. Yeah, it's
yeah,
like
it like suffocates you.
100 fucking pieces of paper in your mouth, and you're just like,
holy cow.
Yeah.
It wakes you up like abruptly.
Yeah,
out of your
I know.
sleep.
I wake up normally in the middle, like 4 o'clock in the morning. I have a bladder of a 2-year-old. I drink like a fucking 50-year-old. I got a bladder of a 2-year-old. I got to pee every 5 minutes, and usually I wake up usually around 4 in the morning because I drink so much water, and then I usually take a couple sips before I go to bed. So it's kind of not as bad,
right?
But it's sometimes I wake up and
sometimes
I get it.
though.
Oh yeah, sometimes
again, it's not dehydration.
Right.
It has nothing to do with your water intake.
Especially if you're drinking beer all night, like a heavy IPA, and you don't brush your teeth before you go to bed. Man, it's like the fucking shit stuck to the roof of your mouth, like sawdust and shit. That's why I don't drink IPAs when I'm high, because it's just so. I drink a fucking High Life all day long. I drink that corn beer any day. But this Hoppy Refresher though keeps my palate pretty much. And it also accentuates the weed too. I've said that before. It's really good. If you're looking for something to quench your thirst, and no, they don't sponsor the show. I just used to work for them.
They make a good product.
Yes, they do make a good product. There was something else too about cottonmouth. Oh, the CUD, cannabis hyperkinesia, the
CHS.
Yes, CHS. I was talking to somebody. And we were having a discussion, and they asked me what I thought about, all this going about the cannabis hyperkinesia syndrome. And, we've talked about it on the show multiple times. And, I've done some research to find out why this is happening. And so many younger people are really getting it, but also finding out that a lot of hospitals are just labeling that. People coming in saying they're sick, they're throwing up, they've been drinking all night, but then they're like, oh, you smoke weed? Yep.
Oh, and then they just call it that.
Yes. So that's
And then the person will never go back and try weed again. That when the person is really just drunk.
Right.
Or had too much of both.
Yes. So they're not even putting as alcohol syndrome or alcohol, poisoning or whatever. Right away. Cannabis hypersomnia syndrome. Oh, they got it. They got the cud. It's just so fucked up. Just trying to give cannabis a bad name over and over. Just trying to show, look, it gets people sick. Listen, this ain't your dad's Cadillac from the 60s. Your endocannabinoid system has to get used to smoking this weed that's now anywhere between 18% to 40% that they say. Or if you're getting an infused, you might have smoked an infused pre-roll that someone bought at the fucking dispensary. It could be 48%. That's with distillate in it, or fucking you're smoking a donut with a hash hole in it. You're not ready for that. That is for the well-experienced smoker, cannabis consumer. If you are smoking you need to make sure you're educated, and you need to make sure you are asking people, what am I smoking? Straight, okay, thanks. I'm going to go light. And go light. Don't be fucking ripping. Man, some of you newbies and some of you that aren't used to this kind of cannabis need to understand that it's not what it was in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. This is not for your newbie person anymore. And that's the problem with cultivators, because that high THC percentage is what sells. Because that's what the cannabis consumer has been trained. I'm not even saying educated. You've been trained to do, And I really feel that we are not educating enough people at the store level and making sure that they understand what they're smoking. Especially if they're not an everyday consumer. You shouldn't be smoking 35%. Right, Yuki? She's moaning over there. She gets it. So you have to understand why people are getting this is because it's not what you think it is. You need to ask questions. Right?
Right.
All right, let's move on. Cannabis treatment reduces chronic nerve pain with minimal to no side effects. New scientific review finds. A newly published review of research on marijuana chronic pain concludes that treatment with cannabinoids offers significant relief from chronic pain with minimal to no side effects, potentially providing patients a life-changing alternative to conventional pharmaceuticals. The positive effects of cannabinoids in pain management are clear, and the merit in treatment thereof is evident, says the research published last month in the Journal of Sirius. It adds that the fact that cannabinoids are natural garners to support over traditional synthetic and semi-synthetic drugs. Authors considered thousands of research papers for the review. Compared to placebo, cannabinoids provide significant relief from chronic pain, 33% versus 15% as measured by visual analog scale, the paper says. The transdermal application of CBD led to more pronounced reduction in sharp pain. You use a CBD bomb, don't you, or THC CBD bomb?
Yeah, but we've read that they don't get into
your
deep
skin.
joint
But
pain.
but they're saying that this does though, right? What is that called again?
Transdermal patch.
Right. Yes. So that goes into the skin, right?
I think.
Yes. Authors from Sir Sigwugusar Ramgoolam Medical College. I totally butchered the fuck out of that, but that's the way it's spelled.
Imagine you did.
Siwusagar Ramgoolam.
This is a school.
Medical College.
Okay.
In Mauritius. Noted that while there's still... I'm going to get fucking yelled at by somebody I fucked up, so sorry.
I can't wait to see that. What that says.
Wait till you see it. Noted that while there's still insufficient evidence available on their long-term adverse effects and drug interactions due to the ambiguous legal status of heightened social taboos globally, the results indicate that cannabinoids nevertheless offer a per diem changing alternative to pharmaceuticals. The potential benefit of cannabinoids is that they are naturally derived that have already been shown to have a potential to effectively decrease chronic pain and minimal side effects as compared to standard drugs being used, the review concludes. The research looks specifically at a neuropathic pain caused by the damage of dysfunction of the nervous system, often associated with conditions such as diabetes, HIV, AIDS, shingles, multiple sclerosis, and even side effects from certain pharmaceutical drugs or radiation therapy. Treatment of such pain is a complex endeavor, The paper notes, which often requires specialist care and intensive drug therapy. As more states have legalized medical marijuana, pain has been a top qualifying condition in most jurisdictions. That's backed by up by a report from patients and healthcare providers indicating that cannabis is an effective tool for pain management. A research letter published last month by the American Medical Association, for example, found that 71% of chronic pain patients and 59% of physicians are now in favor of nationally legalizing medical cannabis. The studies involved interviews with 1,661 chronic pain patients and 1,000 doctors. That's big. It was particularly funded by the National Institute of Drug Abuse, NIDA. Overall, people with chronic pain were more supportive of the policies that would expand access to medical cannabis and provides more supportive of the policies that would restrict access to medical cannabis. And it led to the author of the study at Rutgers Institute of Health and Healthcare Policy and Aging Research. Meanwhile, the National Cancer Institute also recently published a wide range of series of scientific reports on marijuana and cancer as part of the effort as better understand core questions around patients, relationships with cannabis, including sourcing, cost, behavioral patterns, patient-provider communications, and reasons for the use. Patients who use CBD vaginal suppositories in a separate trial, meanwhile, also reported significantly reduced menstrual pain and related symptoms. Participants who use the CBD suppository generally reports less period pain, better mood, and lower use of pain medications compared to subjects who underwent conventional treatment. A study published this summer, meanwhile, found that more than half, 57% of patients with chronic musculoskeletal pain said cannabis was more effective than other analgesic medications, while 40% supported reducing the use of other painkillers since they began using marijuana. Yet another study last year published by the American Medical Association found that the use of medical marijuana was associated with significant improvements in quality of life in people with chronic conditions like pain and insomnia, and those effects were largely sustained over time. Great stuff. You use cannabis. What's the biggest reason why you use cannabis? Besides
Pain.
enjoyment. Besides enjoyment.
Pain.
Pain. All right?
Yeah.
There is no linear relationship of blood THC to driving. That's amazing.
This is interesting.
Study finds calling into question many state marijuana impaired driving laws. Go get him, Mrs. Weedman.
This is a big one. A new scientific review of available evidence on the relationship between cannabis and driving finds that most research reported no significant linear correlations between blood THC and measures of driving, although there was an observed relationship between levels of the cannabinoid and reduced performance in some more complex driving situations. The report, which has not been peer-reviewed, was posted late last week in preprints of The Lancet by an 8-author team representing Canada's Centre for Addiction and Mental Health, Health Canada, and Thomas Jefferson University in Philadelphia. It identified and assessed a dozen peer-reviewed studies measuring the strength of the linear relationship between driving outcomes and blood THC, published through September 2023. The consensus is that there is no relationship. The paper concludes, This is surprising, given that blood THC is used to detect cannabis-impaired driving. Most states where cannabis is legal measure THC intoxication by whether or not someone's blood THC levels are below a certain cutoff. The study's findings suggest that relying on blood levels alone may not accurately reflect whether someone's driving is impaired. Of the 12 papers included in the present review, authors wrote, 10 found no correlation between blood THC and any measure of driving, including speed, car following, reaction time, or overall driving performance. The 2 additional papers did find a significant association with blood THC, speed, and following distance. Authors certainly aren't suggesting that there's no relationship between the two, only that the relationship appears more nuanced and complex than simply the amount of the cannabinoid in someone's blood. Authors said that there indeed may be limits above which driving is impaired, which may explain why one of the studies with high doses found significant correlations between blood driving and THC. Complexities of tasks behind the wheel also seem to matter. One study found correlations. The review authors point out They used complex driving situations that consisted of a combination of rural, urban, and interstate roads that involved distractors such as deer emerging in rural areas, car doors opening into traffic, and kids on bicycles. Drivers in that study were also told to do a second task while driving, for example, watching lights in a rearview mirror or making a selection on the radio. Thus, scenario and task complexity may be an important variable in revealing an association between blood THC and driving, the new paper says, encouraging future research to vary the task demands of the drive to unravel the complex relationship between blood THC to driving. Despite the new paper's findings that there's little evidence, I think this term, the linear relationship between blood THC levels and driving performance, is said like 50 times in this article. So the authors say that their conclusions have important implications for road safety, pointing to roadway situations they describe as challenging and complex, as well as increases in potency and cannabis over the past years. Current methods of detection of impairment may be suited to some types of situations, but more large-scale studies on the relationship of blood THC and driving are needed that systematically vary driving complexity and cannabis potency. This new review is by no means the first research to challenge the popular view that THC blood levels are a suitable proxy for driving impairment. In 2015, for example, the U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration concluded that it's difficult to establish a relationship between a person's THC blood or plasma concentration and performance-impairing effects, adding that it is inadvisable to try and predict effects based on blood THC concentrations alone. In a separate report earlier this year, they said there's relatively little research backing the idea that THC concentration in blood can be used to determine impairment, again calling into question laws in several states that set per se limits for cannabinoid metabolites. Several states have determined legal per se definitions of cannabis impairment, but relatively little research supports the relationship to crash risk, that report says. Unlike the research consensus that establishes a clear correlation between blood alcohol content and crash risk, drug concentrations in blood do not correlate to driving impairment. Similarly, a Department of Justice researcher said in February that states may need to get away from that idea, that the marijuana impairment can be tested based on the concentration of THC in a person's system. If you have chronic users versus infrequent users, they have very different concentrations. Francis Scott, a physical scientist at the National Institute of Justice Office of Investigative and Forensic Sciences under the DOJ, said. Back in 2022, Senator John Hickenlooper sent a letter to the Department of Transportation and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration seeking an update on the status of a federal report into testing THC-impaired drivers. The department was required to complete the report under a large-scale infrastructure bill that President Joe Biden signed, but it missed that deadline, and it's unclear how much longer it will take. Last summer, a congressional report for Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development and Related Agencies bill said that the House Appropriations Committee continues to support the development of an objective standard to measure marijuana impairment and a related field sobriety test to ensure highway safety. It's just dawning on me that I bet this piece in particular is a big reason why we're not federally legal.
Probably.
Because of public safety and health, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a big issue if you have all these people running around high and driving, and there should be some effective level that isn't safe to be driving.
Alcohol level, what's
right.
alcohol? 0.08?
Right. So
I get it.
I bet that this is a big part, but you'd also think if they just throw more money at it and get this figured out because the world wants it. Okay, so back to the article.
I love when Mrs. Weedman goes on her rants. It makes me happy.
A study published in 2019 concluded that those who drive at the legal THC limit, which is typically between 2 to 5 nanograms of THC per milliliter of blood, were not statistically more likely to be involved in an accident compared to people who hadn't used marijuana. Separately, the Congressional Research Service in 2019 determined that while marijuana consumption can affect a person's response times and motor performance, studies of the impact of marijuana consumption on a driver's risks of being involved in a crash have produced conflicting results, with some studies finding little or no increased risk of a crash from marijuana usage. So, they got to figure some shit out. I mean, I'll be a test.
You drive great.
They could have testers all over the place.
They can. Well, we were talking about one.
There's driving facilities. There's racetracks.
Yeah.
Go put some people out behind wheels and
we did
get
talk
this
about
figured
them
out.
doing that test with CBD. People driving with a lot of amount of CBD in them to see if they had any reaction time failure or anything like that. Listen, I actually drive probably a little bit more safer when I'm have consumed.
Oh, we're not
cannabis.
promoting.
No,
we're not promoting.
not at all. It's just me personally. Here's why I drive safer. I didn't say I drive better. I drive a little safer because I'm always nervous that I'm going to get pulled over and I don't want to go over the speed limit. So I always do 50, like maybe 2 miles per hour over the speed limit. And I'm always just like staying in one lane, not switching. Just
He's a left lane 5 miles over the speed limit driver who never looks in his rearview mirror and sees the 20 cars behind.
do all the time.
Like, what the fuck,
No,
dude?
I do all the time. When I see somebody
Sometimes
behind
you do.
me,
You've gotten better.
I've gotten
You've
1,000 times better. Like,
I always say just drive in the middle lane.
well, actually, when I've
like the left lane.
consumed, I drive in the right lane and I just stay behind people and just make sure I just do everything right. I just concentrate that way, and I'm just like I'm driving, and I follow rules better when I'm not high and I just want to get somewhere. What are you doing?
You just go.
You're fucking driving.
You're more patient when you're
right.
a little
Yeah,
stoned.
and I'm not in any rush.
Right.
My mind's not rushing. It's just steady waves. So I don't really like driving when I've consumed either, though. So when I know I'm going to be driving, I usually stop an hour before and don't smoke anything else. That's just the way I feel. I don't like driving under anything, alcohol or anything. Just you not only endanger your life, you're endangering other people's lives, and I would feel horrible if that happened.
Right.
And coming from the bar industry, when you hear deaths happening like that in a bar that someone consumed too much alcohol and they survived, but they killed somebody else, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if that happened. So you just be safe.
That's right.
Cannabis. Where am I?
I think you got some news.
I do. I got lots of news. Political, state, and business news. There's actually a lot going. I mean, because it's the election, we're coming in and we're a week away. There's a lot of cannabis news right now, and I have 3.5 pages of cannabis news, political, state, and business. There's a lot of shit going on right now in this industry and across the world too. There's so much going on. So here's one. Chicago suburb bans hemp-derived THC sales, joining regional push. Rolling Meadows, a Chicago suburb, has banned the sales of hemp-derived THC, kratom, and I don't know what the hell this is. It looks like pintene products. I have no idea what that is. Starting in February 2025, joining other local efforts to regulate these substances. The city's ordinance exempts state-licensed cannabis dispensaries. The ban primarily targets about 6 specialty smoke shops with concerns over unregulated THC products like Delta-8. The move follows similar bans in nearby suburbs as Illinois lawmakers face pressure to create clearer regulations on hemp-derived products. It's starting all over. Get ready. Medical cannabis users buy more, recreational consumers buy more often. So medical cannabis users buy more, recreational consumers buy more often, but don't spend as much. A new Frontier Data survey, nearly 4,000 cannabis users, reveals key difference between medical and recreational buyers. This is the crazy thing, too. In more states that are medical and rec, medical sales have gone to shit, and they're getting less and less people renewing. I've got some stuff I read, and we'll be reading about that, too. It's crazy. Do not let your medical licenses, do not give that away. That's important. You know, medical users are more loyal. And spend significantly more often around $300 to $500 per purchase. I did when I had when I was buying med before I went recreational here in Illinois. I was growing my own home grow, and I remember I was also buying for other people. Oh shit, that's terrible. While recreational buyers spend less and tend to shop around, those using cannabis for both purposes are the most frequent consumers, with nearly half consuming daily. Medical users prefer consistent sources, while recreational users are less loyal. Positive life impacts are more frequently reported by medical and dual-purpose users compared to recreational-only users. Tsunami of debt heading towards the biggest cannabis companies. A debt crisis looms for the cannabis industry, with $1.83 billion maturing by 2026. People got to pay the piper soon. All the rats are following them down the sewer because that's where your companies are going to go. Publicly traded companies, some have restructured their debts, but others, I'm not mentioning any names, I don't do that, face large maturity soon. While some companies have managed to secure refinancing, others may struggle as banks scrutinize assets' values more critically. The situation highlights the challenges cannabis businesses face with access to capital and importance of strategic financial planning. Stop being so greedy and let some other people get a piece of the pie.
Well, here's the thing. Their overhead is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
Because they put in C-suite before they even sold anything.
Yep.
Yes.
Listen. Because you bring corporate people in from other industries.
And everybody requires big paychecks.
Let me ask you a quick question, and you can listen. All these corporate people that are coming in from other industries, go look at where some of the places they came from and see how well those companies are doing. That's going to determine why the cannabis industry, the legal corporate cannabis industry, owes $1.83 billion. And
they brought in people with a lot of professional experience. If they're bringing in C-suite executives,
but know nothing about weed,
but they knew about the business. They know how to grow a business.
But is their business successful in the other business industry they came from?
I don't know.
I've seen some people that came over from some other industries and their businesses weren't successful, that they supposedly did the head of marketing for, or the CFO, or the COO, or the CEO. You know,
right.
I've seen what companies some of these people came from, and they're dog shit. But you got a bunch of debt, and you're getting paid $10 million to be the CEO of a company, or $20 million to be a CEO of a company, but you got to pay the piper soon. We'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting in these next 5-10 years. Votes on Arkansas medical marijuana expansion measures won't be counted. You should all be pissed about that. State Supreme Court rules. The Arkansas Supreme Court ruled that the votes on medical marijuana expansion initiates will not be counted due to misleading ballot title. The title. The initiative from Arkansas for Patient Access aimed to expand the state's medical cannabis program. They weren't even trying to go recreational. They just want to get some more added to it and limit legislative revisions. But opponents successfully argued it was unclear. The measure will still appear on the November ballot due to printing deadlines. But votes won't be processed. Some justices dissented, arguing for a more lenient interpretation to favor voters. Bullshit. 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 What's that song go? Is this bullshit or horseshit combined?
They say that?
That's how it goes. It's three though. It's bullshit, horseshit, and something else. I can't remember the three of them. And that's how it went. I got to remember the song. But that's the whistle to it. So yeah, you got bullshitted, you got horseshitted, and something other kind of shitted. I can't remember. So Louisiana Hemp Company sues state over new strict THC limits, allegedly recriminalization. Missouri cannabis patient count plunges, like we were just talking about, with take off of adult use. Missouri medical cannabis market saw an 87% drop in patient participation in 2023, with adult use cannabis generated at $29.7 million in sales during the first year of legalization. The shift impacts funding for veteran services, which relies on medical cannabis tax revenue. Regulators are monitoring tax revenue changes, addressing legal challenges over local taxes, and focusing on industry regulations, including social equity programs. Medical cannabis sales continue to decline, but showed a slight rebound in patient enrollment by September. Total cannabis sales since 2020 surpassed $3 billion. Man, don't let your medical licenses and all of the hard work just to get to medical is important for people. It is, especially here in Illinois. That 2% tax is great. New Jersey Senate panel approves bill to address expungence backlog caused by marijuana legalization. A Jersey Senate panel approved a bill to address the expungence backlog caused by marijuana legalization. The bill seeks to prevent the release to be expunged convictions during background checks. The backlog has grown significantly since cannabis legalization expanded expungement eligibility, overwhelming the state's ability to process these cases, which now total around 50,000 annually. Annually! Delays have caused people to miss out on jobs, housing, and other opportunities. The bill aims to accelerate expungement processing, but concerns about resources remain. Minnesota recreational cannabis market on target for 2025 launch, regulators say. Minnesota's recreational marijuana market is on track to launch in 2025. The Office of Cannabis Management has drafted initial regulations with final rules expected by early 2025. Pre-approved licenses are being issued to give businesses time to plan, with 1,800 social equity applicants have already applied. Regulators are being thorough to ensure compliance and prevent predatory practices. Some cities and countries are setting their own guidelines in anticipation of the market launch. Voters in Kansas and Utah back marijuana legalization, a new polls find. Here's a great story. Remember I talked about Becky Bong?
Yep.
Right?
Yep, yeah. And she reached out to us.
And this is the reason why I don't think she's reached out back again when I said, hey, I would love to have you on the show.
Okay.
I think this is the reason why. ACLU to represent Minnesota woman facing potential 30-year prison sentence in bong water case. She probably couldn't talk to me yet.
Yeah.
After this case is over and you win, right, Becky Bong, give Mr. Weedman and Mrs. Weedman an email again. We'd love to have you on the show. The ACLU is representing Jessica Besky, a Minnesota woman facing up to 30 years in prison due to a loophole. And this ain't business development. This is a fucking loophole that treats bong water as a methamphetamine.
That is ridiculous.
What are you fucking? What's that show called? Fucking Heisenberg.
Yeah.
Fucking, what is she, Heisenberg? She's making fucking crystal meth in her bong. Get the fuck. Besky was pulled over in May, and the sheriff deputies found a bong with 8 ounces of water alongside drug paraphernalia. The unusual case has sparked debate about the appropriateness of prosecuting individuals for minor drug-related offenses, especially given recent decriminalization efforts. The ACLU aims to challenge the district enforcement of drug laws in Minnesota. Come on, Minnesota. Free Becky Bong. I'm good right now. Free Jessica Besky of Minnesota. 30 years for bong water. I'm going to give him the shame. Shame. Shame, Minnesota, and your laws. She ain't fucking making meth out of bong water. Come on now. She ain't no Heisenberg. She's smoking fucking weed.
Well, they're saying that it's the equivalent of having meth.
Bong water?
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like,
is it dirty or something?
But they're saying, you read it.
I know I read it.
That it has the same laws against it. Like it.
That's what I'm saying.
But
it's crazy.
If it's not chemically the same thing, how are they? That doesn't even make sense.
It was a loophole. Now that's a loophole to get people thrown in jail. Yeah. But for 30 years.
30 years.
For bong water.
For 8 ounces of fucking dirty water.
Bong water that she was ripping.
Nasty, dirty water. Like, really?
Free Becky Bong. Jessica Besky will fight for you. Let us know how it goes after the ACLU helps you get free. Free Jessica Besky. Massachusetts celebrates pivotal chapter of cannabis industry maturation. Massachusetts cannabis sales exceed $6 billion, with record sales reported for June, July, and August of 2023. The state's Cannabis Control Commission noted significant growth, which was a monthly record of $132.9 million in June. The increase is partially due to sales marijuana clones and seeds. Despite some business licenses relinquishments, the industry continues to expand with 358 active dispensaries. The report also highlights ongoing social equity efforts and regulatory changes to improve industry oversight. 13 companies from new coalition advocating for safe, legal THC beverages. 13 companies have launched a coalition of adult beverage alternatives to promote safe and legal THC beverages. These coalitions seek to influence federal legalization by advocating the measure like age restrictions, third-party testing, and standardized packaging. Established under the 2018 Farm Bill, the legal framework for THC beverages have faced challenges due to unregulatory markets. CABA aims to ensure responsible production and marketing and has hired lobbyists to help safeguard the legal status of hemp-derived THC products as Congress considers the Farm Bill renewal in 2025. National Accounts Group urges IRS and Treasury to update marijuana tax guidelines ahead of federal rescheduling. They need to fucking fix that shit quick. Governor Newsom Cannabis Task Force seized $191 million so far in 2024 as California tightens regulation. California's Unified Cannabis Enforcement Task has seized over $191 million worth of illegal cannabis in 2024, with more than $70 million confiscated in the past 3 months alone. The surge in enforcement initiated by Governor Gavin Newsom aims to protect public safety and support the legal cannabis market. The task force has eradicated over 526,000 illegal plants and have taken various actions against unlicensed operators, including enforcing new regulations on hemp products that restrict THC levels. Oregon outdoor cannabis cultivators call 2024 harvest a huge improvement. Oregon's outdoor cannabis harvest in 2024 is seeing significant improvement, with growers reporting a healthy crop due to favorable weather conditions, including a hot, sunny summer and limited mold. So far, around 2.3 million pounds of cannabis have been harvested, with expectations for more as many growers stagger the harvest. The season is also marked by a less severe wildfire threat compared to previous years, enhancing the quality of the product. However, price volatility remains a concern in the market. Yeah, when you got 2.3 million pounds of outdoor weed, geez, that's a lot of weed. Ooh. Send Mr. Weedman some, will you? Federal appeals court schedules oral argument in case seeking to overturn U.S. marijuana prohibition. A federal appeals court has scheduled oral arguments for December 5th in the case challenging the constitutionality of U.S. Marijuana prohibition. The lawsuit led by Verano Holdings and other argues that Congress has moved away from enforcing federal control over state legal cannabis. The site changes the policy in such a budget riders preventing federal interference in medical marijuana. The case allows the lower court's dismissal, which upheld federal authority but recognized the plaintiff's standing. The outcome could impact the Biden administration proposed rescheduling of marijuana. DeSantis. Man, there's fucking Florida is on fuego right now with burning of weed. I mean, let me tell you something right now. There is so much fucking ads and everything going on in Florida. Every news article that I read, every other one is probably something about Florida right now in Amendment 3. Amendment 3, Amendment 3, Amendment 3. Who's against it? Who's for it? Who's against it? Who's for it? Who's against it? It's almost like the Logan Paul, Mike Tyson fight, because that's the other thing I keep on seeing on TikTok is everything about those two ready to fight November 15th. Tyson. Get to see him fight one more time again.
I think you say that every time he fights.
Oh,
One
fuck.
more time.
One more time, Tyson. I'm a huge Mike Tyson fan. I know. Jeez. Probably as much as a Muhammad Ali fan, you know? And, but this is like the battle among battles, Amendment 3. So he's in hot water right now because he's taking, over taxpayer funded propaganda. He's taking tax money from basically from like the opioid, what's supposed to be going to help people with opioid addiction, and using that to fund two things: the Amendment 3 pushback, he's fighting, they doesn't want it, and also the abortion that's on the docket too. Wow. So Florida Governor DeSantis faces backlash for allegedly using taxpayer funds to campaign against Amendment 3, which seeks to legalize adult use cannabis. The Florida Department of Transportation aired PSA's warning about the dangers of driving under the influence of marijuana, with some ads featuring law enforcement spreading misinformation about cannabis. The group behind Amendment 3, Smart and Safe Florida, has sent a cease and desist letter claiming these actions are unethical. Despite the opposition polls indicate strong support for the amendment. It's going to pass. I mean, I think the last poll I saw was like 64%. They need 62 or 60%, I think, to win. And but also now they're paying influencers, influencers that don't partake in cannabis, bashing it, doing it. This is fucking ridiculous. Ridiculous. He's saying. And I had one time respected him during COVID and how he helped his communities out and what he does for the hurricanes. He's not a total fucking douchebag. But what he's doing to the cannabis industry is total douchey. And he just talking, like saying, what are we going to be like New York where you smell weed everywhere? Listen, I lived in Florida for 13 years and people smoked weed everywhere in Florida.
Yeah.
So what's the difference now when it's legal? just fucking do like cigarettes. You can't smoke in 15 feet of a building. You gotta smoke on the curb. You gotta smoke over behind in the alley. People fucking used to that anyway. We've been smoking in fucking alleys forever and doing back alley deals, you know? It's just very frustrating to see all this, you know? Lawsuits against the feds could set precedent on state rights. New Mexico marijuana firm moves to stop seizures. This has been going on for a hot minute now. A federal lawsuit filed in New Mexico cannabis business against the DEA could establish a precedent for state rights concerning cannabis regulations. The lawsuit argues that the DEA's actions violate the 10th Amendment by infringing on states' rights to manage their own marijuana industries, particularly under the state's legalized cannabis framework. If successful, this could potentially be altered federal-state dynamics in the cannabis regulation and bolster state authority over the marijuana markets. This is crazy. Oh, this poor pizzeria owner, man, in Wisconsin. Wisconsin pizzeria owner apologized for accidentally serving marijuana food. The co-owner of Wisconsin restaurant that sold pizza with THC said he was sorry. The restaurant, Famous Yeti's Pizza. Oh, listen, it was a mistake. It was a mistake. The restaurant, Famous Yeti's Pizza in Stockton, shares storage space in a commercial kitchen used by other businesses. A Famous Yeti's coworker grabbed what looked like the normal olive oil, but didn't notice the cap said it contained Delta 9. Because hemp is legal in Wisconsin. Chemical and cannabis. The oil isn't used for food, and it's legal because it was derived from hemp, opposed to it from the cannabis sativa plant. Public Health Madison and Dane County said in a release Friday the pizza was inadvertently sold at 4:20 p.m. Just kidding, it says 4:30 p.m. Tuesday until noon Thursday. So it was sold for a couple days. So yeah.
Everybody was getting baked.
So basically 4:20 p.m. Tuesday to high noon on Thursday. Stockton's fire department EMS took 5 people who ate the pizza to the hospital. Health officials said, hold on. First responders initially thought carbon monoxide was the culprit.
Because they were passing out.
Right. But those who ate the pizza felt like they unknowingly took a marijuana edible.
Oh.
So they weren't fucking wasted.
Okay.
They knew. They probably kind of were like, am I sick? What the fuck's going on? How did I get high? You know? But I feel bad for the restaurant owner.
Yeah.
I do. It was a mistake. You know? And shit happens, you know? And if I was those people, I'd be like, hey, yo, dude, when I come back, now that I know that you make this kind of pizza, will you make me 2 or 3?
Yeah. He might actually get busier.
Yeah. Like, hey, put it on the menu.
Yeah.
You know? Just let people know about it.
Right.
Like we always say. If they would have known about that you were making an infused pizza, you'd have a line out the fucking door. I'd be there. Especially if your pizza's good. Manja. Robin Hood or thief? I saw this article, and a friend of mine sent me this article because he used to work for this company. So, work with this company, let's just say. Robin Hood or thief? Michigan cannabis manager defiantly sells harvest to compensate unpaid staff. He's the Robin Hood. The general manager of 305 Farms is facing potential criminal charges after he sold 665 pounds of pot, used the $269,000 in cash to pay his team back wages. We're not talking about like a couple $100.
Right.
We're talking some people who need to pay like $30,000.
Right.
Michigan cannabis manager has controversially sold his harvest to pay unpaid staff after the company's owner allegedly failed to distribute salaries. The manager, who likened himself to Robin Hood, claims the action was necessary to support employees facing financial hardships. While some view the decision as a bold stand for worker rights, others criticize it as theft. The situation raises questions about ethical practice in the cannabis industry and responsibility of owners towards their employees. Yes, we've talked about people not paying their employees, people not paying their bills, people taking that. We've saw people get captured saying, "Oh, don't pay the cultivators. You know, we'll just buy from different people." You fucked the whole man. Back in my day, you paid, you bought, you paid, or else you get broken. Right? I appreciate this manager sticking up. That's a great leader right there, sticking up for his staff. Yeah,
I think it's neat.
Yes, I know it wasn't his money,
right?
But that owner should be thanking him because those people then could have put a lawsuit on him. You know, and then he would have been in real trouble.
Well, and it could ultimately keep this person's business afloat.
Right. Take care of your people,
It was
man.
a smart move, but yes.
Take care of your people.
Probably
They take care of you.
Agreed to first.
Yes, should have been. But way to go, Robin Hood.
Yeah.
And your merry men. Puerto Rico and cannabis. Puerto Rico's cannabis industry is facing regulatory and financial challenges despite its legal status. The territory legalized medical cannabis in 2015, leading to a burgeoning market, but recent reports indicate that many businesses are struggling due to high taxes, regulatory hurdles, and limited patient base. While the medical program has seen some success, the lack of comprehensive adult use framework hampers potential growth. Advocates are pushing for reforms to attract more investment and support substantially industry development. Just go recreational. You have big tourists, right? Mm-hmm. Puerto Rico, a lot of people go to tourists. You make a killing. Uh-huh. Make your medical into recreational, sell both. So medical for the locals, recreational to the tourist. You make some millions.
Yeah.
You'd be all happy then, you know. Do you think marijuana has any sway in this election? Because both candidates are talking a lot of game and what they're going to do for cannabis.
Well, personally, I don't think that cannabis is a big enough topic to determine who should be a president. I think it's a very important topic. I think it's a very important segment or thing that needs attention.
Right.
But I don't think that it's it holds the weight against some really big things.
If you just decriminalize it and set it and forget it and just let the states handle it and let the federal government just back off. It's decriminalized. No one's getting arrested for weed. States are handling it. We're out. Pay us our 2% so we can fund some shit. Leave it alone.
Right.
If you did that.
Just keep it simple.
Just keep it simple, silly. Right? You don't have to worry about everything else that comes around it. The states are handling it. Pay the 2% to Caesar. Let the states handle standardization. Give them some fucking help. Have it go into and just set it and forget it. That would be the ultimate goal. We don't need all this attraction to it because all you're trying to do is gain voters. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right. Well, right. And that's what I'm saying is that it's not, I don't think my recommendation, if I was trying to help somebody decide the candidate to vote for, would not involve that. As I might bring it up,
right?
But that wouldn't be a hot topic
100%.
that you'd be concerned about. So weed has become not only accepted, but popular. But do people care about it when they vote? Since 2016, cannabis has begun slowly legalizing across Canada and the U.S. Recent research says almost 90% believe it should be legalized. Additionally, California sober has become a thing. Beer sales have flattened, and even AARP has joined esteemed medical organizations saying cannabis should be recognized for its health benefits. States are reaping huge tax revenue, yet the industry is still struggling without some type of federal recognition. But does cannabis have any sway in the election? Top concerns of voters include the economy, healthcare, and the Supreme Court and abortion, with over 60% of voters considering these topics very important. Although cannabis consumer usage is generally seen as more of a Democratic habit than Republicans, a number of Republicans are fans too. Some larger influencers in the industry have been staunch supporters of the GOP nominee. A recent poll found 42% of Republicans and GOP-leaning independents favor legalizing weed for both recreational and medical use, compared with 72% of Democrats. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is struggling to prevent an expanded cannabis ballot initiative passing in Florida. But do voters really consider marijuana when choosing their politician? While the industry is full of people who believe they have influence over the election in Congress, the numbers don't add up. It isn't a make-or-break issue for most voters. Biden delayed any action on cannabis despite his promise in 2020 until the last part of this term. And because of this, even if he manages to push things through with the DEA, it will be 2025 before any help comes. The GOP nominee has come out in support of the Florida initiative against his old foe DeSantis, but leaders in his party are against any legal form of weed. House Speaker Mike Johnson has made it very clear cannabis is a no-go. A recent YouGov poll revealed 27% of voters trust the Democratic nominee to handle cannabis laws, compared to the 20% of Republicans. But more Trump supporters say cannabis issues are important to them than Harris supporters. Interesting. Does the cannabis industry have a say in the election? Absolutely, via support, donation, and campaigns. But on average, weed is not a major issue or deciding factor for most voters.
We're 7 days away, ladies and gentlemen. 7 days away. You know why I'm excited about 7 days? Because all these fucking commercials are going to stop. I'm so tired of them. I said that 2 months ago. Speaking of commercials, I saw my first fucking Christmas commercial. Old Navy.
No.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
So early. We haven't even had Thanksgiving. Come on.
I mean,
we haven't even had Halloween. What else is in there? Veterans Day?
No.
No.
I don't even know. But anyway, it just makes me sick. Already. I have to hear that song. The Old Navy Christmas song.
Crazy.
Oh, God. That's why I don't buy your clothes,
Crazy.
Old Navy. Your damn Christmas song. International news. Italy's CBD ban suspended by regional court. Stakeholders argue it's like saying non-alcoholic beer gets you drunk. A regional court in Italy has suspended the ban on CBD products, arguing that prohibiting non-psychoactive hemp products to akin to banning non-alcoholic beer. Stakeholders celebrated the decision, showing that CBD offers therapeutic benefits and should be accessible. The ruling allows businesses to continue selling CBD until a final decision is made. Good. The situation highlights ongoing debates in Italy over hemp regulation and broader European market stance on cannabis-related products. How much does a legal weed grower in Canada actually get from that ounce you bought? This was crazy. A coalition of cannabis businesses in British Columbia, known as the BC Cannabis Alliance, has launched a campaign to highlight the minimal profits growers receive compared to the total retail price of cannabis. Despite the perception that cannabis industry is profitable, small craft growers often face financial struggle due to high taxes and fees. It's not only just in Canada, ladies and gentlemen. The campaign utilizes infographics and shows growers receive less than 20% of the consumer spending, while over half goes to taxes and fees. For example, on an $82 package of cannabis, only $15 go to the producer. Additionally, the Alliance is advocating for a reduction in the BC government's 15% fee on direct delivery sales to improve the viability of craft producers. This effort aims to raise awareness on financial burdens on growers and push for policy changes that support the local cannabis industry. And plus, private business owners cannot compare to what, because in Canada, the government owns dispensaries and cultivation too. Mm-hmm. So you have to go up against them too. It's very hard, unless there's no one around you, like on Saskatchewan, Canada, which I've always wanted to go to.
Saskatchewan.
I
don't think I even said it right.
My dad got me into wanting to go there. We never made it as kids, and it's still a dream of mine to go there one day.
Is that upstate?
It's like in the
on a lake.
It's just like way up in north in Canada, and it's just like somewhere like I want to be desolate and just not see anything but a bunch of bears and moose and caribou. Oh, so he always talked about camping there. We never made it. So. Mold, lead, E. coli, and other deadly contaminants found in 90% of illegal cannabis samples in the UK. A recent study in the UK found that 90% of illegal cannabis samples contain harmful contaminants, including mold, lead, and E. coli, conducted by the UK Centre for Medical Cannabis. And the research tested over 30 samples from unregulated sources, highlighting that has significant health risks associated with illicit cannabis. This data underscores the importance of legal regulation to ensure product safety and consumer protection. As legal markets can enforce quality standards, the illicit markets do not do. Allow home grow in the UK, allow real cultivation there and real dispensaries and have good COAs, but let people home grow so they know where their weed's coming from. Uruguay pharmacies to offer the cannabis with higher THC levels. Finally! But don't forget, Uruguay was the first country to legalize cannabis in the what? World. Uruguay has authorized pharmacies to sell new cannabis strain called Epsilon, marking the fourth variant available to consumers. Epsilon has a THC content of up to 20% and a CBD content of 1%. This follows the previous strains, Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, each with varying THC and CBD levels. The introduction of a more potent strains have boosted the number of registered cannabis buyers and sales significantly. However, the move has faced criticism from political figures who argue it lacks sufficient studies on health impacts. Supporters like Daniel Rodeo from the National Drug Board draws parallels to regulated wine sales to justify the initiative. Epsilon will initially be sold in limited quantities and around 570 Uruguayan pesos, about $13 for a 5-gram package. That's pretty good. Cannabis Giant reveals UK's illegal online sales have grown 50% over 2 years, urges government to act. This international subsidiary of a holdings company out of the United States advocates for a reform strategy with tightened regulations. Of course they do. They want the money. UK medical a lot of stuff coming out of the UK. There was actually another article I didn't do. I'll put it on next week's though. But there's like a lot coming out of the UK right now. Yeah, UK medical cannabis prescriptions are increasing, but awareness is lacking. As the UK approaches 6 years of allowing specially trained doctors to prescribe medical cannabis, only one. No, I'm just kidding. Private prescriptions have surged with a reported 118% increase from 2021 to 2023. Over 300,000 cannabis-based medicine items were prescribed, leading to approximately 35,000 patients holding prescriptions. However, public awareness remains low. A 2023 survey indicated that 58.5% of respondents were unsure about the legal status of medical cannabis, and less than 1% of potential beneficiaries are accessing it. The gap heightens the need for greater education on medical cannabis and its availability in the UK.
Less than 1%?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Our poor friends over there. Wiz Khalifa brought to trial in Romania for smoking weed on stage. Remember we talked about that? Wiz Khalifa, whose real name is Cameron Jabril Thomas, is facing trial in Romania after allegedly smoking marijuana on stage during the Beach Please festival in Constantinesti. The prosecutors from DIICOT have indicated him for illicit drug use, as reportedly possessed over 18 grams of cannabis and smoked a hand-rolled joint during the performance in July. Khalifa could face prison sentence of 3 months to 2 years or a fine. As possession of marijuana is illegal in Romania, he publicly apologized for the incident, stating he did not intend to disrespect the country and expressed a desire to return without smoking next time. Legalization committee in Ireland calls for marijuana legalization and decriminalization of all illicit drugs. A legalization committee in Ireland has proposed legalization of marijuana and decriminalization of all illicit drugs. The report emphasizes a health-focused approach, shifting away from punitive measures. It suggests creating a non-profit regulated cannabis market and expanding access to medical marijuana. Sweet. Hemp finally gets regulated in Argentina. Will it boom like the country's many other ag products? Argentina has recently introduced a regulatory framework for industrial hemp, with the passing of Resolution 1-2 in 2024, which aims to promote hemp cultivation and production. However, the resolution has drawn criticism for sidelining medical cannabis, which many businesses have previously invested in. Industry experts express concerns about the lack of planning and transparency, suggested it could lead to legal cannabis from companies feeling neglected by the new regulations. While some see potential for hemp development, others fear the absence of clarity will hinder progress in both sectors. Here are our friends in New Zealand. Cowboy Paradise owner Michael Milan jailed over underground cannabis bunker. 2 men involved in significant underground drug operations in Arhura Valley, New Zealand, sorry if I butchered that, have been sentenced to prison. Michael Milan, 68, received 6 years, while Anthony Harris, 77, was given 5 years. Really? You gonna let these guys die in prison? Come on now. Over weed. Their operations produced 136 kilograms of cannabis annually from a concealed bunker, netting over $2 million from 2017 to 2019. Good for them. Both men were found guilty of various drug-related charges, with evidence of including large cash deposits and intensive surveillance revealing the scale of their operation. Let me tell you something, New Zealand. I love you. Thanks for listening to the show. I appreciate you all out there. But arresting 2 men for supplying weed, probably throughout New Zealand, and ending their retiredness with just growing weed and making a good living to be able to support themselves, and
they weren't violent,
right? No,
they were just distributing,
right? I guess there were guns on the property, but that they weren't out there.
That was
killing.
Probably for their own protection,
right? You know, man, free Michael Malini and who's the other guy's name? Anthony Harris, the Cowboy Paradise owners. Free them. Come on, New Zealand. Don't give them that much time. Give them a fine. Tell them don't do it again. Give them a slap on the wrist. It's fall. The leaves are finally falling here in Chicago, even though it was 80 fucking degrees today. It was great. How can you not love 80-degree weather in the last week going into Halloween, right?
Crazy, right?
It's amazing. You cannot beat it to get this, because November, Christmas is coming to get cold, but today was, I think, the final 80-degree day. Mm-hmm. It was like 82. Mm-hmm. But it's fall. The leaves are falling. The tree colors are looking banging right now.
Our drive to Nashville and home.
So,
it was so pretty.
It's been great. But there's some activities you could do while high in the fall.
Yeah.
Tell us about it, Mrs. Weedman.
Just because the weather is changing during autumn doesn't mean you can't have a fun time. And if you add a little weed, activities can be even more fun. Autumn is a great time of year. It is not too hot, and there is a wide assortment of things to do both inside and out. While swimsuits and sunscreen are packed away, there's a wide variety of activities to engage the mind and body. Here are the best fall activities to do while high. A movie marathon. As the days get shorter, cozying up with a movie marathon becomes increasingly appealing. Choose classic horror films or feel-good comedies and pair them with some cannabis-infused snacks for an elevated viewing experience. This is perfect for those chilly fall evenings when staying in feels just right. Board games. They can always be made better with the help of weed. And you can add to all of this enjoyment by scheduling your board game play sessions among friends during this time of year, when it's perfect to stay in and cozy up. The list of board games you can play while high is endless, from something chill and easy like Monopoly to something more in-depth like Dungeons and Dragons. Sessions that can be made more real and entertaining with weed. Plus, most games allow you to snack, so that always helps.
Snacks.
Apple picking, the quintessential fall activity, becomes even more enjoyable while high. The crisp air, vibrant colors, the orchards are beautiful. They make a great backdrop for a leisurely day. Plus, you can savor the fruits of your labor by making delicious edibles or cider at home. Hiking. It's one of the best fall activities in the world, lending itself perfectly to fall weather. By adding weed into the mix, you'll be contributing to a deeper appreciation of your surroundings and nature. You'll enjoy the exercise more, as well as the colors and the smells. Just make sure to choose a hike that's not too crazy. You don't want to get too high and then get lost. That would suck. Crafting and DIY projects. Engaging in crafting and DIY projects can be increasingly satisfying while stoned. Yes, they are. Consider making fall-themed decorations or creating your own cannabis-infused products. This not only sparks creativity, but also results in tangible items to enjoy throughout the season. Attend local festivals. Many towns host harvest festivals during the fall, featuring local produce, crafts, and entertainment. Attending these events while high can enhance your enjoyment of the live music, food tastings, and community spirit. It's an excellent way to connect with others who share similar interests. And stargazing. Finally, as nights grow longer, stargazing becomes an enchanting activity. Find a quiet spot away from the city lights, lay back, and enjoy the cosmos while sharing stories with friends. Cannabis can deepen your appreciation for the universe's beauty, making this a peaceful way to end a day of fall adventures.
Go enjoy this weather right now.
Bonfires, too.
Yes.
Bonfires and weed are great.
Oh, so
Storytelling,
great. We need to
bonfires.
do a bonfire this weekend.
Yeah, we do.
Snoop Dogg confirms he has a staffer who makes sure people he's smoking with don't get too high. So he has somebody that
monitors.
Yes, and he has somebody that rolls joints for him.
Yeah.
Doinks for him. So
That's
Snoop
pretty
Dogg's
cool.
entourage, includes a staffer tasked with making sure people he's smoking marijuana with don't get too high, telling them that's enough when they've reached their limit, the rapper says. During appearances on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen that aired last Sunday, the cannabis icon was first asked who he smoked with, who he considers to be the most lightweight consumer. He didn't name names, but offered that there was many of them. They're all featherweights. There's too many to name, baby. Why don't you come join me so I can add you to the list, Snoop said. Cohen then reminded the rapper that I have joined you, and I did okay. The host then informed the audience that Snoop has a guy with him when he gets you high, who kind of says, "Hey, stop." Snoop confirmed that the unnamed person will tell others in the rotation that's enough when they have smoked too much and are at risk of getting overly stoned.
I think that's kind of cool.
I think it's great, especially Snoop's weed.
I'm sure if you really wanted to keep smoking, the guy's going to back off.
Right.
But, yeah.
You're going to get
That's
stopped.
kind of smart.
I mean...
Pace yourself.
Yeah, but also, too, you're hanging out with Snoop, and
Yes, you might want to go at it.
Right.
You want to keep up with him. I got it. I can do this. It's one night.
Snoop said there's only one person that ever outsmoked him.
Who?
Willie Nelson.
That's right.
Willie Nelson. That tells you something, ladies and gentlemen, if you smoke with Snoop. I don't care how... That dude's been smoking...
Day in and day out. His whole life.
Right. And he smokes, what, like 80,000 joints a year?
Something
maybe
crazy.
more?
I think he just always has one lit.
Right. So, I mean, you just got, like, anything. Just be chill. You know your limits. You just even being happy to smoke a joint with Snoop.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great. You know, one, I just want to try his weed,
Right?
and then say I smoked some weed with Snoop. You know, so Mrs. Weedman,
Mr. Weedman.
you got anything else to say?
Just continue giving good thoughts and energies and prayers, whatever it is that you send out to the people that have been victim to all these hurricanes and all the turmoil that's going on in the world. And prepare yourself for this election. Do some research. Don't vote for who your mom and dad say to vote for, or your brother or sister, or whoever is advising you. Figure it out for yourself. Go. There's voter ballot. Like, try to find some unbiased opinions. Try to do a little research on the parties. Do a little research on the politicians, and make some decisions for yourself.
Mrs. Weedman and I stopped voting.
There's a lot of topics.
Yeah, Mrs. Weedman and I stopped voting for party a long time ago.
Pick your person based on the person who you believe is going to do what's right for the country and the matters that you find important. Find that person.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you could trust that person, or, I mean, I don't think we can really trust any politician, sorry, but if you think that person will be the better leader, then you can feel better voting. You're making an informed decision. And there is a lot of power in a vote. We have had very, very close elections in these recent years for presidency. And there are very, very outspoken opinions about both parties and both sides. A lot of people have a lot of emotion invested into this election. It is going to be very close, and every vote counts. So if you have very strong opinions about what's going on in the world and what you do and don't like, really, the protesting is your right, but vote. Because you can write somebody in. We could change the direction of the future by having another party, having an independent party, and letting those people win because they stand on principle. And they're going to shake shit up and try to make things right. And I don't know, just get educated and vote, please.
Vote for your values of that person you decide to vote for, just stop voting for party. Start voting for people that have the same goals, values, needs, wants, desires that you are looking for and what you want to see this country go, you know? So good luck out there, everybody. Stay safe.
And try to promote peace, please.
Yes.
Don't lose relationships with people you love over
a politician.
Because we all know in 4 years...
there's going to be another politician.
This is going to happen again.
Right. The day after this election happens and everything's all done on the 7th or 6th, 7th, 8th, whatever... I'm going to work the next day, and I'm going to still treat that person next to me with the same humanly kindness and respect I had for that person sitting to the right of me the day before. We're all human beings, you know. Don't let politicians run your life. Don't lose relationships. Don't lose loved ones over a vote. Because the next day that you won't probably vote again for another 4 years or 2 years or 6 months, but the person who you were friends with or one of your loved ones, you're not talking to him now till the next election. That sucks. So just love one another. Shake someone's hand, no matter who. Be proud that we get to do this, and people died and fought in wars and
still continue to fight in wars. And...
so we can go and vote. So go vote.
A lot of these countries that are in turmoil right now, that a lot of people here in the United States feel very passionate about supporting and educating the United States on the real facts of what's going on in these wars. You need to vote.
Right.
It's the only. I kind of lost my train of thought.
That's okay. We're gonna say. I saw.
Sorry, I'm a little high.
Thank you, Matty, for sponsoring the show with some fucking GG4.
Maybe that's a good segue.
Yeah, it's
to
a good
end the
segue
show.
to go. So, hey, everybody out there in the world, we love you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the kind words. I'll let you know about my Instagram coming back or it's not coming back, but I appreciate you all the support and send us some shout outs to me. I love you all. You can find me on Weedman420chronicles@gmail.com. Say hello to me there. I'll put out, maybe Mrs. Weedman will put out my Discord. You can send me some messages on Discord if you're on Discord. So
you can send a message through my DMs on 8 Decades.
Yeah.
And I can share it with him.
Yes. So come talk to me. I miss you all terribly. But I do love you all out there. As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puff, and away.
Puff, puff, pass.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.